Imagine you're in Tampa, Florida. Tens of thousands of people are packed into an outdoor amphitheater. Stage lights are blazing, and permission to dance is filling the night air. Then, suddenly, the music stops. Not a fade out, not a transition, it just cuts. Right in the middle of the choreography, right in the middle of the stage. And Park Jimin, the man known for his unmatched professionalism, is standing there, silent. A small smile forming on his lips. And then, he says something that no one in that venue expected to hear. Not a motivational line, not a rehearsed stage joke. And within hours, the clip had been watched millions of times across the globe. So what actually happened that night in Tampa? And why does Jimin's reaction reveal a side of him that the public rarely gets to see? Stay until the end, because there's one small detail in that moment that almost everyone missed. And it's the detail that makes this so much more meaningful than it first appears. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're an ARMY who likes deep analysis without the unnecessary drama, you're in the right place. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time, because this is exactly the kind of content we keep making here. Alright, let's get straight into it. For those who need some context, BTS was in the middle of a major US concert run. Tampa, Florida was one of the stops on the schedule. And this wasn't just any show. This was part of an era that ARMY had been waiting for through a long and difficult stretch, including an extended hiatus as several members fulfilled their mandatory military service. That night, Permission to Dance was one of the featured songs, a song that carries enormous weight historically. It was written during the pandemic, created to remind the world that one day we would all be free to dance again without restrictions. Pretty ironic then that right in the middle of that song, everything stopped. Jimin was positioned at center stage. The choreography had been running flawlessly, the lighting was perfect, and then something happened that nobody planned for. The extended version of the track cut out abruptly, like someone yanked a plug from the wall, and every single eye in that venue turned to Jimin. Let's break down exactly what happened, step by step. The music stopped at the worst possible moment. Not at a natural ending, not at the bridge, but right in the middle of a sequence that needed musical momentum to carry the movement forward. For about 2 to 3 seconds, which felt like 2 to 3 minutes to everyone in the room, there was just silence hanging in the air. Jimin didn't panic, he didn't frantically look for a stage manager with a worried expression, he didn't break character. He did the opposite. He stood straight, took a small breath that was barely visible, and smiled. A smile that, if you watch the clip carefully, wasn't an everything is fine smile. It was a smile of someone holding something back and choosing to stand their ground anyway. And then he said the word. One word that wasn't in the set list, one word that wasn't in any stage script anywhere. A slip. Brief, spontaneous, and deeply human that escaped right into the still active mic in the middle of that silence. The venue erupted. Laughter, screams, people reflexively raising their phones because they all understood in that instant this was a moment that would never happen exactly like this. Seconds later, the music came back in. The beat dropped, and Jimin, without missing a single count, snapped right back into position and continued the choreography as if nothing had happened. The reactions from the members on stage were just as telling as Jimin's own response. Several members caught on camera showed completely different reactions. Some immediately turned away with their shoulders shaking, barely holding it together. Others just bowed their heads. But one thing was clear across all of them. Nobody was stressed, nobody looked alarmed, because after this many years together, they all knew if Jimin is smiling like that, everything is going to be fine. In the crowd, the initial reaction was a mix of confusion and amusement, but the moment the word left his lips, the entire venue seemed to receive the same signal at once. This isn't a disaster, this is a moment, and ARMY knows exactly how to treat a moment. Within minutes of the concert ending, clips from every angle were flooding Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. Some were close-up, some were from the upper stands, some were audio only, but every single one captured the same thing: Jimin's most unexpected reaction. Related hashtags hit trending across multiple countries almost immediately. Not because of scandal, not because of controversy, but because in that one awkward, unscripted beat of silence, Jimin showed something incredibly rare for an artist at his level: genuine, unfiltered humanity. Now, here's the part that most other channels haven't talked about. If you re-watch that clip closely, and I mean really closely, not just focusing on the moment the word comes out, there's something far more interesting happening. Watch his hands. Right before the word escapes, Jimin's hands instinctively move toward the position for the next choreography sequence. That's pure muscle memory. His body was already preparing to continue even though the music wasn't there yet. Which means, on a subconscious level, he was fully locked into performance mode, and his conscious mind only registered the missing music a half second after his body had already reacted. Second detail, the smile. The smile appears before the word, not after, which means it wasn't a reaction to what he said. That smile was Jimin taking control of the situation, signaling to the audience that this wasn't a crisis, just a pause. And the third detail, one you need decent audio to catch, is the way he actually said it. Not with frustration, not with anger, more like someone walking down the street who suddenly steps into a puddle. A purely reflexive, completely human reaction. And that's exactly why the clip feels so different from the polished, curated content that usually comes out of an idol's stage presence. But wait, because here's something far more surprising. This isn't the first time Jimin has faced an unexpected technical failure on stage. There are several similar incidents scattered across different concerts, and if you line them up one by one, the exact same pattern emerges every single time. And this is the part that almost nobody talks about. Every time something goes wrong, an earpiece dies, a backing track stutters, choreography needs to be modified on the spot, Jimin's response can always be broken down into the same three stages. First, there's one tiny moment where he processes what's happening. Not panic, just processing. Second, there's a small signal sent to the audience, sometimes a smile, sometimes a look, sometimes a gesture so subtle you'd miss it if you blinked, as if he's quietly saying, "I know, you know, we all know, and that's okay." Third, he continues. No dramatics, no asking for sympathy from the crowd. This is a very specific pattern, and it didn't form overnight. So where does it come from? To answer that, we need to go somewhere more personal. If you've been following BTS from the beginning, you probably remember how Jimin was described in the early years of his career. In various older interviews, Jimin spoke openly about the deep insecurity he carried, about feeling like he wasn't enough, about spending more hours in the practice room than almost anyone else because he felt like he was always chasing something he could never quite define. There's one interview from around 2015-2016 where he mentioned that he never felt truly ready to walk out onto a stage, that every single time there was a small part of him still asking, "Is this enough?" Now, picture that same person in Tampa. The music cuts out, tens of thousands of eyes on him, and instead of freezing, he smiles. This isn't an overnight transformation. This is the result of over a decade of work, learning not to run from imperfection, but to stand inside it and remain himself. Jimin's body language across the years also shows a shift that's hard to ignore. In the early era, there are many moments where his posture tends to close inward, arms crossed, shoulders slightly curved, eye contact that often deflects. Now, and this is plainly visible in the Tampa moment, he's open, even in the most unscripted second imaginable. That kind of change can't be faked, and it's one of the key reasons why ARMY, and even people who'd never called themselves fans, could feel the authenticity radiating from that moment. Because someone who has genuinely made peace with themselves has nothing left to hide, not even a word that slips out in the silence of a stage with a broken track. There's something quietly poetic about this entire moment when you step back far enough to see it whole. Permission to Dance isn't just a song, it's a statement, a declaration that nothing can take your joy away, not a pandemic, not distance, not anything. And right in the middle of that song, that very song about having permission to dance, the music disappeared. And Jimin proved that the permission wasn't coming from the outside, it was already inside him. When the music stopped, he didn't stop being a performer. When the choreography was disrupted, he didn't lose his stage presence. And when the word came out, spontaneous, human, completely unplanned, he didn't lose his dignity. If anything, he gained it. Because there is enormous courage in being yourself in front of tens of thousands of people, a kind of courage that can't be rehearsed in the studio, can't be taught by any choreographer in the world. And Tampa bore witness to it. The thousands of people in that venue that night, they won't remember the flawless set list, they won't remember the expensive lighting rig. What they'll remember is one moment of silence, one small smile, and one word that made every person in that space feel that the artist standing in front of them was a real human being. Not an icon, not an idol in the most sanitized definition of the word. A person. And maybe that's what ARMY has always been searching for, and what everyone who walked into that concert was searching for too. Not perfection, but a presence that is truly, unmistakably real. So, what do you take away from the Tampa moment? Not just a viral clip, not just a funny moment we'll re-watch for years, but a reminder that authenticity, honest, unfiltered authenticity, the kind that sometimes arrives in the form of an unplanned word in the middle of a silent stage, is the rarest and most valuable thing a person can offer the world. Jimin proved that in Tampa. Now, it's your turn to weigh in. Out of everything we covered today, which part stayed with you the most? Was it the breakdown of what actually happened? The three-stage pattern he always shows in moments like this? Or the long journey from a young artist who didn't believe he was ready for the stage to someone who can smile when the music suddenly disappears? Write it in the comments. I'm genuinely curious to hear your perspective. And if this video gave you something different from the BTS content you usually find, share it with one person you think needs to see it. Not for the drama, but because moments like this deserve a wider conversation. Subscribe if you haven't, turn on notifications, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care of yourself. And just like Jimin showed us that night in Tampa, you don't need the music to be perfect to keep dancing.